Welcome back, dear Turkish series stars family. Today the lights in our studio glow with a warmer hue, drifting away from the icy glare of showbiz gossip to settle on something that beats inside the chest. If you thought you already understood Akınözü, the guarded heart, the steady gaze, the man who lets his roles speak while his private world stays locked, you're about to meet him all over again. We are not here with hallway whispers or a scandal cooked overnight. We are here with something far more tender, life itself. Before we step into a confession capable of softening even the toughest skeptic, remember to subscribe, tap like, ring that bell, and if you want to back our work and access exclusives, the join button is right there. Let's begin. For years, Akın stood like a stone lighthouse against the breaking waves of curiosity, watching the storm but never blinking. Interviews skimmed the surface, red carpets flashed, yet when talk turned to his inner circle, he wrapped himself in polite silence. That composure wasn't coldness, it was a choice, a discipline. And then, suddenly, a door opened where no one expected one. Not for a film launch, not to clarify a rumor about set chemistry, but because the course of his days had shifted forever. The actor who measured every word let his heart speak louder than the cameras. It happened away from noise, in a calm exchange with a few columnists who weren't hunting for fireworks. He exhaled, as if releasing a secret that had grown warm in his hands, and said with a softness that filled the room, he was living the most meaningful moment of his life. There was that beat of disbelief before the meaning landed, and then, with a smile that refused to hide, he confirmed what many never imagined they would hear from him so openly: fatherhood had arrived. The whisper became a wave, and within minutes his name rode every timeline and talk show with a different glow. People who have crossed paths with him behind the scenes told us a new light rests on his face, a calm that looks a lot like awe. They describe an Akın more reflective, more porous, as if the walls had turned into windows. What moved even seasoned reporters was the naked sincerity in his voice. Joy, yes, and the kind that shakes your bones. But also an honest tremor. The weight of responsibility, the fear that keeps you humble, the question that keeps you awake. For a man so used to precision, watching him dwell in pure feeling was disarming in the most human way. He spoke of the exact second the news sank in, a memory burned into his inner sky. Time, he said, didn't just slow, it rearranged itself. There were no movie gestures, no scripted tears, only a silence where 1,000 futures rushed in at once. From that day, every small choice seemed to glow at the edges. Breakfast felt different. A walk meant something else. Even the way he folded a page or paused before sending a message was charged with a new gravity. Life was the same room, yet all the furniture had moved. And then came the line in the sand that he refuses to step over. Even now, with happiness humming through every answer, he draws a circle around his private world. He avoids specifics about home, about schedules, about sacred routines. And he guards Ebru Şahin with the same devotion, choosing to let love breathe without microphones. We asked if the cameras would ever follow them into this chapter, and he smiled as if to say some stories are meant to be felt, not filmed. He wants the noise to stay outside while the lullabies are sung inside. Isn't it beautiful, Turkish series stars family, watching a man be altered by the softest force there is? It makes you sit up straighter and wonder how quickly a heartbeat can reorganize a life. Tell us below, what heartfelt advice would you offer Akın and Ebru as they step into this new season? Do you think fatherhood will steer his role choices toward gentler men, steadier loves, perhaps fathers who stumble and get back up? If you value that we hold this story with care instead of squeezing it for clicks, consider pressing join. Your support keeps this space tender and bold at once. Right after the reveal, the industry did what it rarely does, it got quiet, then kind. Messages poured in from co-stars, directors, and fans who have watched him carry intensity like a second skin. Many said it suits him that his proudest role is one without a script. One friend told us, without theatrics, that none of this surprise is surprising. Conscientious is the word they used. Careful, present, thoughtful. Assertions like that draw a picture. A man who has trained all his focus for work now offers that same attention to a tiny, demanding universe at home. No one is saying he's quitting the stage. He was frank, the craft remains, the call to set still thrills him. But he also confessed a shift you can't mistake: work no longer eats the whole plate. It shares it. He spoke about rearranging calendars the way you rearrange a nursery, making space for things that can't be delayed. First yawns, first laughs, first moments that arrive once and never again. The translation was loud without being loud. He will bend his schedule when love asks, and he will be there for the scenes that won't ever air. More than enthusiasm, he called this an emotional apprenticeship. Fatherhood, he said, is the mirror no makeup can tame. It pushes you inward, forces the question, who am I when nobody claps? What do I believe so fiercely that I'd hand it to a child? The candor stunned the room. He didn't hide the shiver that sometimes crosses at night, the small doubt that tests the lock, will I be enough? But the tremor didn't paralyze him, it animated him. Awareness sat beside him like an old friend with a new story to tell. Those close to Akın say the changes are visible even on quiet Tuesdays. Fewer late dinners, more evenings with the phone face down. He lingers at windows. He rids about listening, about steadiness, about the inner weather of a home. The spotlight, which used to feel like the sun, now looks more like a lamp you can switch off. Again and again he returns to the same promise: I want to learn presence. Not just the kind that counts minutes, but the kind that remembers every tiny expression and hears the sentences tucked between breaths. Talk drifted, inevitably, to the boy he once was. Without drawing a curtain back too far, he admitted that becoming a father pulls old memories like photographs from a drawer. You scan your past, he mused, when you're entrusted with someone else's future. Which rituals are worth repeating? Which patterns end with me? There was no grand proclamation, only a steady vow to refine rather than perform. Authenticity, not perfection. A father who is there even when the room is quiet, whose attention lands like a blanket rather than a spotlight. When asked to name the kind of dad he longs to be, he didn't reach for trophies or pretend halos. Present, he said, even in silence. He spoke about consistency as a kind of love, about the patience that listens before it speaks. Children feel more than they translate, they read warmth the way we read words. He wants to be the hand that steadies, the laugh that returns, the voice that doesn't vanish when the door closes. There was no acting in any of it, only a man rehearsing nothing and meaning everything. With this first, deliberate opening to the world of magazines, Akınözü gave more than a headline. He offered a window into a room we rarely glimpse, where wonder sits beside fatigue and hope rearranges priorities. And with him, Ebru Şahin shines in a new way, not because of a dress or a premiere, but because of the quiet alliance they protect. Today, the entertainment gaze finds him different. Still the professional who hits his marks, and also the man unlocking the largest, softest role he will ever play. And with that note of new life, we close today's story on Turkish series stars. What did you feel hearing him frame presence as love? We believe he will be a beautiful father and she a luminous mother. Like this video to celebrate their chapter, subscribe to keep walking with them, share with fellow fans, and remember, the join button is there for those who want to help us keep telling tender truths. Until the next time, and all our congratulations to Akın and Ebru. By the time the sun leaned west, the story had already ignited timelines. Not the frenzied blaze of scandal, but a steady warmth that drew people closer. Longtime fans wrote about scenes where his eyes did all the talking and how fitting it felt to see that same tenderness cross into real life. A director who'd guided him through his toughest sequences told us that discipline and gentleness often share the same root. You don't fake that, he said, you cultivate it. And what you cultivate on set, you carry home when the cameras sleep. We asked, half joking, if he felt prepared. He laughed without bravado. No one hands you a manual, he said, and maybe that's the point. You discover the rhythm by keeping time with a smaller heartbeat. The actor in him, so used to rehearsals, has surrendered to the miracle of improvisation. Every day will edit itself. Every night will write its own scene. He isn't reaching for perfection, he is reaching for attention, the kind you pay willingly, the kind you don't ask to refund. And in that humility, you could sense a broader courage. There was a moment, brief and golden, when Ebru's name came up, and the room softened again. They have weathered bright seasons and long shoots, and now they guard their equilibrium with quiet stubbornness. She, too, prefers to let meaning gather rather than scatter. No declarations, no parades, just a look shared that speaks in a language that doesn't need subtitles. In a world that monetizes every breath, choosing to keep a treasure offstage is a revolt as tender as it is wise. The applause is lovely, but the hush is where love grows. Some wondered aloud if this evolution will tilt his casting. Will we see him accept stories where softness is strength, where a father learns as deeply as he leads, where rage finds its antidote in care? He didn't draw a map, but he didn't shut the door either. Work still matters to him, art still matters. Yet the compass seems recalibrated. He spoke about characters who risk comfort to protect wonder, who know that presence is a plot, not a prop. Listen closely and you hear it. A man drawn toward roles that echo the home he's helping build. Late in the conversation, he admitted there are nights when he stands in a doorway, listening to the hush between clocks, practicing patience as if it were a muscle. He is learning the quiet crafts, making space, saying less, noticing more. Changes stack up in small ways. A script set aside to answer a call, a meeting moved for a doctor's check, a workout shortened because there is a melody at home that feels more urgent than a timed run. These are not sacrifices, he smiled. These are exchanges. You trade noise for meaning and never miss what you let go. Before we wrapped, we asked him to leave our community with a thought. He paused, and the pause said everything. Value the minutes that don't look like milestones, he said at last. The ordinary holds the gold. He thanked the audience for kindness, for choosing empathy over intrusion, for letting a man have a chapter that blooms behind the curtain. And then he stood, lighter somehow, the way people look when they've told the truth they were hoping to be asked. The door closed softly. The echo it left was hope shaped like a cradle. On social media, timelines filled with gentle words instead of speculation. People recalled interviews where he deflected the personal with grace and said that tenderness like his deserves a quiet room to grow. Others shared stories of meeting him for seconds and feeling seen. It is rare, a fan wrote, to admire someone for a glare on screen and then admire him more for the way he chooses silence. The consensus was simple and loud without shouting. This joy was earned, and it looks good on them both. Of course, curiosity still taps at the window. What color is the nursery? Which lullaby is on repeat? He didn't indulge us with details, but he did say the small things suddenly carry the weight of planets. A tiny sock on a chair can stop him mid-step. A note on the fridge feels like a promise. In these ordinary constellations, he finds new gravity. The man who once tracked every beat of a scene now tracks the soft cadence of a home that is learning its own song, one breath layered atop another. Here at Turkish Series Stars, we don't take for granted the privilege of telling a story like this, a story that arrives without smoke or mirrors and still dazzles. We know you come to us for the drama you can feel, the emotion that lingers when the video ends. Today, the plot twist is the gentlest one, a guarded heart opening a window, a beloved couple choosing the sanctuary of privacy while letting us stand outside and listen to the music drifting through. That is enough. That is everything.